It's a lie. 4.6 million people have watched that video. Can't you count on that technique that he talks about in his video that he told 4.6 million people will work, that will stop a dog fight in seconds? It won't work. You can't count on it. And I'll tell you why. It's a big lie. It's all a big lie. The problem is that people want to break up a dog fight and they're looking for information. That he's talking about grabbing a collar about this size, which is a 3/4 inch. He's talking a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, or 1 inch collar width. Getting underneath it, which would be, those of you who know sports terminology and medical, this is supination. Lifting up the dog, twisting the collar to choke the dog out. Oh, everyone thinks this is great. This is incredibly great. Why? Because I've never broken up a dog fight, and I've got 11 solid reasons why this is a complete and utter lie. All right, so what are the problems here? What are the problems with this technique of trying to choke the dog out? Lots, loads. Number one, let's go with the collars first, okay? If you're trying to use that method against this type of collar, this was designed in the 1970s for gun dogs, bird dogs, because it will twist if it's caught. If it's caught enough, it will twist. That's why there's a center ring. This will twist and fold and roll back over. So this is not going to allow you to choke the dog correctly. This is leather. You've got to count on the buckles and everything holding, by the way, which a lot of times they will not on many collars. All right, so that's one collar that technique will not work on. Number two, you happen to have, the dog happens to be in a star mark collar like this. This thing is fragile. It will not, you will not get your hands underneath one because there's these plastic indentations which for many people are going to hurt them. They're not going to get their hand under there and be able to turn, because if they try to twist it, this will break and come in half. These are fragile. That also goes for if someone is trying to use the pinch collar, prong collar. These are very fragile and can't take any sort of pressure. You try to grab underneath this and lift this up on the dog, these are going to come apart. Guaranteed it's going to come apart. They come apart all the time for so many people. Introduce you to some other collars that definitely are used, especially for certain types of dogs. Now, if you're having to break up a dog fight, it matters about what type of dogs they're fighting. If they're two Chihuahuas, yeah, it's not going to be difficult. Now, however, if you start getting into larger dogs, and especially athletic dogs, let's see, break up to Rhodesian Ridgebacks or a Dutch Shepherd having to fight a Doberman, that's going to be pretty difficult. They're both athletic dogs. They're extremely fast. And there's some other reasons I'm going to get to. Stay tuned for those because I'm going to cover the collars right now. Some more collars that won't work, and they were designed for this. These collars were designed to protect dogs back in the Roman days and onward. You'll find these collars some places, and certain dogs are wearing them. Now you'll find them on certain bulldogs, certain Staffordshire Terriers, boxers, etc. What people like to call the spiked collar. The spiked collar. This is to protect the dog from humans and from other animals. If try to bite, these spikes are in the way. The other animal can't get a solid bite in. And I want to see you try to grab this and lift up. Number one, you're counting on having a space. And if these are on correctly, there isn't a space to get your hand underneath. And trying to grab these spikes is not pleasant. This is just one level of spikes. These are slightly more. Okay, and they even get bigger if you'll see them on certain that are sticking out several inches. These are meant to protect the dog. Something I want to talk about too, as I said about the width of the collar. This collar is 2 inches wide. You are not going to be able to grab this collar and twist it. You're not going to be able to lift up and twist. You won't have, a normal person's hand is not large enough. If they can get it under to lift it up and twist, it won't happen. My American Bulldog, by the way, Akuma, most famous American Bulldog on YouTube, his collar that we go outside with is 2 inches wide. You're not going to be able to pick that up and twist it like I'm saying. And that also accounts for the fact that Can you lift the dog up? That's something I'll get to in more in detail. Now, one of the things, speaking of protecting the dog, these are Kevlar collars used on dogs that are tactical and also dogs that go to catch hogs, razorbacks, boars. They protect the dog. You are not getting your hand under here, and you're not lifting up, and you're not twisting anything. It's not going to happen. Again, some of these are 3 inches or 4 inches wide. You're not getting your hand under that. You're not going to get enough purchase to lift and twist. It's not going to happen. That's also accounting for some other bad things that he thinks is going to happen. Number one, who's lifting up the dog? Many people are not strong enough to lift up a 110-pound dog or an 80-pound dog who is actually struggling and trying to fight for his life. It won't happen. This is a lie. You're not going to go and pick the dog up off the ground. The guy was in animal control. Woo, in the United States. In the United States. This isn't telling me anything because it's assuming too much in his urban area. He's thinking that most of these are escaped dogs. Now, that is not the world. And in the world, dogs don't have collars. What are you going to do when the dog does not have a collar? And you're assuming that people have practiced this technique. No, they haven't. That's why nobody's saying anything, because they haven't practiced anything. They think it sounds good in theory, but it's not going to work. It doesn't work. And how many times have you done it? You're probably not athletic enough, and a lot of people, especially women, are going to panic. I see it all the time whenever two dogs act as if they're going to get aggressive towards each other, even before the fight begins, and they panic. You have to be calm and be able to get in and get the dog. And by the collar is not the place to go. Gun disarms. People believe in gun disarms, but how many have they actually ever done? How many? And that's when you find out when it doesn't work. It's when you need it. You need to practice this thing. People are not practicing this move. It will not work. People who are not strong enough, who haven't practiced, who don't have the right psychology for it, it's not going to work. Plus, it counts on having a collar, and it counts on having a certain type of collar that's loose. The type of dogs, again, I got to get to. Now, if you were trying to lift up a Congo or a Tibetan Mastiff, which are pushing 200 pounds, I want to see it. Who's going to do that? Yeah, there's a few guys out there. Guys, I'm not going to see any women. Normal people are not picking up a dog like that, and they're not going to get near the mouth because the dog is much faster than they are, much more in tune with what's happening. It's not going to work. So these are all reasons why this technique is not going to work. And the main thing is people are believing it because they've never tried it. Have you practiced it? Well, just like the gun disarms, if you don't practice it, you can't do it. You think it's going to save your life because you saw something and now you're going to try it when you need it at the very height? This is my Gilgamesh. This is one of my great dogs. He doesn't like to be away from me. So let's get on with some more reasoning that you need to know. So there is an answer. There is an answer to this. And it comes to us originally from the guys who go after the big hogs, the boars. And there's a way that humans have realized that they have to try to get a boar. These are extremely dangerous. The tusks on those things can cut a femoral artery and you're dead. You're on the ground. Some of those hogs can weigh several hundreds of pounds, several hundred kilos. And the dogs that go after them is like my American Bulldog, who was actually bred to be a catch dog. Don't use them for that. Never going to use them for that. But that's what he comes from. These are dogs that go in and grab and hold on to the hog so the human can come up and do exactly what you're going to see here. I'm going to show you some diagrams and some photos of what you can do. Now this works better if there are two people because there are two dogs. This is definitely a two-person exercise and it needs to be practiced. It needs to be practiced. I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. But this choking the dog out is garbage. It's not going to work. It is not going to work. You can maybe win the lottery too. This is what this thing is about. Maybe you can win the lottery. You know? But this is not going to happen, choking the dog out. So why hasn't anybody said anything? Because they haven't done it. They haven't been there. They haven't broken up dog fights. The guys who actually break up dog fights know that you can't be by the mouth. You can't be near the mouth, especially these slow, unathletic people who aren't training. You're not going to get there. The dog is going to turn and you're going to get bitten as they're trying to re-grip each other. It's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. Again, getting your hand underneath, counting on the collar being loose is not going to happen. It is not going to, and having a collar. Whoa, there's no collar. There went your entire technique, just like certain gun disarms, counting on it being a revolver. Oh, but suddenly it's not a revolver, so you can't use that method at all. This is the best analogy, actually, is the gun disarm. So, what do you have to do? You have to be at the back end of the dog. On the back end of the dog, you're going to see the diagrams and talk about it. You need to lift up from the legs, from the just above the feet, not by what you consider a knee, not that high, but above the actual paws. Grab the dog, lift up, drag backwards, and go in a circle. Why? Why the circle? Because the dog, natural reaction, it's hardwired, so when something's behind them, they're going to turn around to check that out. Now, if you're grabbing them and trying to pull them, they're going to feel that they're getting attacked. So would you. So they're going to try to twist their body, which dogs are incredibly agile. And if you don't go in a circle, it's possible the dog can bite you. Some people advocate going for the tail, but lifting from the tail, but this counts on the dog having a tail, and many dogs do not have a tail. If you're trying to break up two giant schnauzers that have had their tails docked, or Doberman pinschers in the United States where they have their tail docked, or some American bulldogs where people cut their tails, among other dogs, boxers, same thing. There's no tail. So the legs, and again, two people. You need two people for this to be very effective, but you can do it by yourself. But you need to know which is the instigator who started this fight. Because if you grab that dog, generally, that will end it if you're dragging him away and stuff, and you intervene. And that's for normal people. I am not going to give out any more information on this because it's too dangerous to try to attempt any other type of maneuver, but you really need two people. Now this works, doesn't count on having the dog wear a certain collar. Doesn't matter if the dog doesn't have a collar. Yeah, it's going to matter about the weight of the dog, but look, this is how you see humans dealing with hogs that weigh several hundred pounds and kilos. Either way, they're huge. Some of them are huge. They're able. Hog tying. The phrase hog tying came from this initial part of getting the hog tie. Grabbing those things and pulling back and going in a circle. And you had better have practiced this, and you had better be in some sort of shape. You're not going to be with a cane and barely able to walk and not possible of doing any sort of athletic endeavor. You can't pull it off. You've got to know what you can do. I thank the person who sent me this video to look at because they wanted to know, is this going to work? Yeah, you might win the lottery again. It might work if everything is great. As they say in some parts of the United States, you know, sometimes the sun shines on a dog's ass, and literally in this case, because maybe you're going to get lucky, the dog is got a loose collar that won't break, that won't come undone, that you can get your hand underneath and lift the dog up. He's not too heavy for you, and you can twist and choke him out. Yeah, do you want to bet on that? Or do you want to go with the way that guys are able to safely pick up several 100-pound boars and pull them off and get them away and safely deal with them, huh? Well, anyway, so keep sending me videos that you think need to be checked out.